What's going on, my babies? Welcome back to another episode of Can of Heaven. Thanks for tuning in and tapping in. As always, I like to start these off with a disclaimer by stating, first, I want to apologize for any noises in the background in advance and anything of that nature. And my second disclaimer is to always do your own research, to come to your own conclusions, to have your own decisions, to make your own decisions, to have your own discernments. And I believe in your ability to be your own person and to do all these things. With that being said, let's jump right into today's episode. So I've been doing these manifestation these manifestation information videos / podcasts, because I have these on YouTube and Spotify. So I've been uploading these since the second week of November, maybe the first, I'm not too sure. So this whole month of November, I'm going to only be uploading content that has to do with manifestation. If that's something that you're interested in, I'd recommend hitting that follow button or that subscribe button, whichever platform you're on, whichever platform you found me on. And with that being said, let's jump right into today's episode. So in today's episode, last episode, I talked about the things that could be hindering you. And in today's episode, I just want to kind of go into how to gain momentum for those manifestations, because all of these are going to be kind of intertwined, interconnected. As long as you listen to one of them, if you listen to all of them, that would be perfect. That would be fantastic. That would be even better for you. Just because the more you listen to something, the more it sticks in your brain. So if you listen to all of these, and if you listen to these more than once, all of them more than once, you will be so efficient at manifesting that I couldn't even explain to you. So with that being said, let me jump right into what today's episode is going to be, and that is building momentum on your manifestations. So how do you build momentum for these manifestations? I talked about this in, I believe, the second one of these that I've uploaded, where I was talking about if you daydream right before you go to sleep, that will help you build momentum. The reason for that is because there's no resistance. And resistance is created through day-to-day actions where you're day-to-day on your day-to-day. Nobody's happy 100% of the time unless you're really, 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 really upbeat person. Some people are not jolly. And so, how do you gain momentum on days where you're not jolly? It's going to be very, very hard, especially if you're really consumed or you're really concerned about the things that happen in your day-to-day experiences. And if you are somebody who gets consumed in the tiny inconveniences that happen every single day, like if something starts buffering, you're like, well, now I don't want to watch this. Or if somebody doesn't do something nice for you and you're like, well, now I don't want to do this. If you are somebody who gets really concerned with those, if you're somebody who gets really caught up in all the things that don't work out for you, then most of the time you're building momentum for the things that don't work out for you. Why? Because you're giving it all your attention, you're giving it all your focus. So how do you do that for your manifestations? Obviously, if you learn something, it's going to be hard to unlearn that, especially if you've been doing that for years and years and years and years, which is why I talked about in the last one how to go back and unlearn those things. You look at those things, you identify those things, and you say, this is how I'm going to change them. You make a game plan to change those things. But that's up to you. So how do you do that without necessarily needing to do that? How can you bypass that? Because most people are bypassing that anyways. So let me teach you a life hack. This is a real life hack to how to bypass having to unlearn things, because most people don't have to unlearn things in order to manifest. They just have to do things efficiently. So let's work smarter, not harder, right? And obviously, it would be better if you unlearn those things, because then you wouldn't have to deal with those things, and it would be more efficient in long-term perspective. But most people are not really concerned with long-term. Most people are concerned with, okay, what am I going to eat in the next 20 minutes? Which I get it. It's priorities, and it's a good thing to prioritize what you need now. So with that being said, how do you gain those momentum? How do you gain momentum towards your manifestations right here, right now? How do you make that happen right here, right now? What is the most efficient? What is the quickest thing that I can do that will help me get to my manifestations quick? Here, now. What can I do now? So, how do you do that? This is why I talk about going to, what was the word? What is that word? Fantasize, not fantasize. Imagine. Daydream. Daydream. Daydream right before you go to sleep. And if you want to make this even quicker, daydream and take naps throughout the day. If you can take naps throughout the day. Obviously, some people are in a time crunch because they go to school or they go to work or they go do shit. So, find time for that. If you can find time for that, because if you take naps, that will speed up your manifestation process. Because when you sleep, you have no resistance. Because when you're sleeping, you don't have anything to worry about. You don't have anything to be concerned about. You don't have anything that's stopping you or making you frustrated or making you mad or making you sad or making you any of these negative emotions that will cause resistance or cause friction in your experience. And most people, when they want to manifest, they're really concerned or they're really fed up with what's here right now. Everybody's really infatuated with the here and now. Everybody's concerned with how to fix the things right here, right now, because they need it immediately. I want my life to change now. I want magic to be real now. I want to never have to work a day in my life because I want it now. And so that is the quickest way that you can make it now. Go to sleep, because you won't have anything to worry about because you'll be sleeping. And sleeping is the most, basic thing you can do that stops you from being in a grouchy, really uncomfortable place in life. If something is extremely terrible, I'm not saying that all your life problems are going to be fixed with, taking a nap. But taking a nap feels good when you're having a really hard fucking day. And the reason for that is because you get to relax, you get to fucking breathe for at least 2 seconds, for at least 30 minutes, for at least however long you take a nap for. And so go to sleep and have that be your way of creating momentum, because you can't always be super duper positive, especially when life is really hard. Like life is just hitting you over and over. It's not that easy. Obviously it is for some people. For others, it's just not. And so this is a really realistic way of saying, life happens. There is things that are going to happen. Life is not this perfect, rainbows and unicorns type of place. And I'm not going to sit here and make you feel like you should feel that way, because if you don't feel that way, I'm not going to force you to feel that way. And there's some people who struggle with depression, anxiety, and shit like that, which are never going to be in that place because to them, that's not real. So, sleep. And right before you go to sleep, have this daydream. What is this daydream? It's whatever you want. Daydream about the future car you want. Daydream about $1 million if you want $1 million. Daydream about what your life would look like if you were famous, if you were rich, if you were a doctor, if you were an astronaut. Whatever the case is for you, right? Because I don't know what you want. Like I said, these are for entertainment purposes only. I don't know you. I don't know what's in your brain. I don't know what you have going on in your day-to-day life. But I know that it's not easy. And I know that you're doing your best. So let me give you a pro tip that will help you and save you a lot of time, and a lot of effort, and a lot of, disbeliefs. If you daydream right before you go to sleep, there is momentum that is created there. And we all are riding our own waves, right? Like if I feel good right here, right now, I'm gonna ride this wave until I don't feel good no more. Or until something slaps me in the face and it's like, fuck you. Because then I'm gonna ride the wave of like, oh fuck, I just got slapped in the face and somebody said fuck you. So I'm going to ride that new wave. And how do you create the wave that you want to ride? It's not that simple for some people, right? Some people can really just change their mood. They can, like actors, they can change their mood without having an outside factor, because they're so in tune with themselves. Like if you go up to an actor, most people who are actors or actresses, whatever, actors in general, people who play a role in a TV show, movie, whatever the case is, they have to create this lifelike structure for their character that they're playing. They're playing a character, but they can't use their real emotions because their real emotions are not the same as their character that they're playing. Most actors create this fantasy person in themselves, and then they play that fantasy out. And if you really pay attention to rich and famous people and people who are like really high status, they do most of these things easily. Why? Because they've gone to that level of mastery. That's why they're able to be at these high level platforms. And so, for example, I like to always, I always talk about musicians because I love musicians, because I look up to musicians, because music is a life. Music is a form of life. Just like movies are a form of life. You tell this story, and that story is the life. And that life has a bunch of ups and downs and ups and downs, and you ride that roller coaster because it's enjoyable. So for most, I always say most, but I don't mean most. For some people, riding those waves is very uncomfortable because they're not enjoying the journey that is them, because their life story is them, right? It's their movie, right? Like you existing right here, right now, you are in your movie. So that character in that movie is not having a blast. You feel me? So sometimes they are. But that's my point. You can't just change your mood because you're not at that level of mastery yet. You're still kind of like developing these skills for yourself. Most. I always say most, don't mean most. Some. For some people, because some people are actually masters without realizing that they're masters. So, with that being said, how do you bypass the part of you that's not having fun? How do you, and it's not, I don't want to do that because some people are going to take that like in a really unhealthy manner, but it's kind of like if you're having a really bad day, how do you get a chance to breathe if you have no way of releasing that breath? If you have no outlet, if you don't have something that makes you smile, take a nap, breathe, everything is going to be okay. And you taking that nap will help you realize that things are going to be okay. So that's why I always say to daydream right before you go to sleep. And if you have time in the day, take naps. Naps are scientifically proven to be good for you. Not only are they good for you, but they actually make you smarter because you retain more information when your body is able to get rest. So listen to this as soon as you're about to go take a nap. And besides that, so like I've been stating, manifestation is just you simply having this daydream, because the daydream, you have no negative emotions associated with this daydream because it's just daydream. You have no reason to be discouraged or to not like this daydream because it's just a daydream. You have no feelings with it, but the feelings that come from it are good feelings because you're creating this daydream, and most of the time people daydream about the things that they want. You feel me? Sometimes people delusionally imagine, like, I don't know, their ex coming back with flowers and whoop, 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 and shit like that, which I'm not telling you that, that's good or bad. That has nothing to do with me. I'm not gonna sit here and judge you. But at the same time, you know, if that's what's gonna make you feel good, you do you. But I'm not gonna sit here and encourage you to do that because why are you doing that? But I'm also not gonna hate because, I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to be that infatuated or that stuck on somebody to where you're like, oh, this fantasy is gonna make me feel better. So I can't discourage that. But also don't do things that are really unhealthy for you. You know what I mean? Like if you're really infatuated with somebody and that's what's making you feel good, I feel like you need to find some way to do that in a healthy, productive way. Like, for example, when I'm really, really frustrated or if I'm really, really angry and I went through this phase where I was like really fed up with everybody in my existence because I have a tendency to blame everybody around me except for myself and be the problem. So I was going through this phase where I was really angry and I was like, what can I do with all this anger? Like, it's not doing me any justice. I can't just like punch a wall because that doesn't relieve anything. I want to punch this bitch in the face, but that doesn't fix anything. So what can I do that's going to help me? And I was like, you know what? I want to fight some people. But how can I fight people if I'm really fucking scrawny? So then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do boxing. I'm just gonna shadow box in my room for as long as my little heart can fucking push this shit, this anger out of me for. And trust me when I could say I can go a fucking long time. And so I just started pretending that I'm fucking Rocky in my own room, doing push-ups and beating up the fucking air and just motherfucking slanging on Casper because I was so angry. But it actually ended up benefiting me because I was getting back up on my feet and working out my body, and believe it or not, that helped my mental health because I was actually doing something that was good for me, which was getting up to move my body and to not just sit in one place or to sleep all day because that didn't do anything for me. And because I was doing something that would consume so many calories, I was actually getting hungry and I was actually eating because at that time I was like, fuck food, food tastes disgusting. Food is a bunch of, you know, processed, not good things for you. And then I started to get hungry again, and it just built a lot of momentum. Like, I was in a really low place. I was super duper angry, super duper fed up with the world. And it put me back in this world of like, all right, you know what? Let's go out and do something. Let's go out and motherfucking grind towards shit that doesn't even need grinding to. You know what I mean? It's like, it put me back into this mentality of like, life is a game. I'm just gonna make these milestones because fuck it. I ain't got nothing but time. So I get to choose what my movie consists of. What do I want to go after today? And because of that, I was getting a lot of momentum in my mental health and I started to do a lot better. And I was, very fit for the weight that I was at because I was super duper skinny. Like, I'm skinny now, but I was like ridiculously skinny then. And I'm pretty damn pale right now. But at that time, I was like fucking yellow because I was not eating because everything just tasted godly awful to me. So that's what I mean by like, don't do things that are not going to be good for you because your manifestations have a lot to do with how you're feeling at that moment. And if you're really, 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 really struggling, then you should not only get therapy because therapy is going to help you analyze the things that you can't analyze on your own, but it's going to, benefit you in all aspects of life just because doing things that are good for you will help you feel good about yourself because you'll be like, yeah, I'm doing this shit and feeling proud about yourself, and that will create even more momentum. And that's why I talk about taking naps because sometimes you need a break, and having breaks is good in this life because life is hard. Even if you are somebody who's super duper jolly and who's like, life is easy, because I know people who are like that. Yeah, life is easy to you, but it doesn't mean that it's all peachy and sunshine and rainbows, and I know you get frustrated. I know that things happen, and life happens. So I'm gonna wrap this up, because I just went on a tangent. Besides all that, I just fucking went on a tangent. I just ranted. Anyway, how do you manifest? How do you speed up that manifestation? How do you get to a place where you're like, I'm creating so much momentum, I could never stop this shit? So, how to create the momentum for yourself? Daydream, and then take a nap, or daydream, and then go to sleep. Absolutely no resistance, because you're not thinking about anything, nothing is on your mind, nothing is making you feel like shit, because you're sleeping. You're not there anymore. You're just off. You're not worried about all the things that you were previously or currently worried about. So, daydream and then sleep. That is the quickest, most efficient way of, you know, creating momentum, because it's going to be a lot harder if you're somebody who's really, really sad or angry or, whatever emotion it is for you, to just flip that around and be like, nope, I'm good, I'm happy, everything is perfect, everything is fine. Because not everything is perfect and not everything is fine. And you have to own up to those things when they're not perfect and when they're not fine. But you can take a break by taking a nap. You can take a break by having that vision for yourself, having that daydream for yourself, and then just taking a nap. And that's something that's not going to be absolutely bad for you, because sometimes we all need a break. We all need a breather, and that will get you to your manifestations a lot quicker. But I'm not. Also, just want to state that if you're somebody who's really, really struggling, I recommend going to therapy. And therapy is not going to fix your problems, and therapy is not going to fix your mental issues, but it will provide you with insight that you didn't previously have. Most people think that therapy is just going to fix you, or that going to therapy is admitting that you're weak and that you need help. But there's nothing weak about admitting that you need help, because there's nothing weak about admitting and having honesty with yourself or having honesty with anybody. And obviously, we all have really dark thoughts, but you should never be thinking really lowly of yourself, or, thinking really, really nasty, dark things about yourself, just because at that point, you know, why do you beat yourself up? Like, life is already beating you up. You shouldn't be on life's side of the ring and just let it beat you down, because you don't get anything out of that. You don't get anything out of anything, really, if I'm really honest and like Buddhist right now. But at the same time, it's not something that you should be concerned about. And if you're really, really heavily struggling with things that go on in your mental, go to therapy, and not for the sake of that. Therapy is going to fix you, or therapy is going to fix your life, but it's going to make you see things you didn't see before. And it's going to change some of your perspectives that you didn't previously have. And it's just going to help in the aspect that, you know what, life is not that bad. There's certain things that I should actually be focusing on. And if you feel like you're really, really dark and negative and very mean to yourself, going to therapy will help you see that you're actually not deserving of all these things that you're doing to yourself. Like not doing the things that are good for you. Or why don't you do the things that are good for you? And therapy is just kind of like a mirror. It's like sitting in front of a mirror, but the mirror gets to talk, and the mirror gets to tell you, this is what I think about your situation. And obviously you don't have to take the information if you don't want to, but it's a helpful tool to have in your corner. And if you can't afford to have a therapist, then by all means, I understand, but there's also different routes that you could take. There's also journaling, to read your thoughts out loud, to analyze your own thoughts as though they were somebody else. And there's also things that you can do to help yourself if therapy is not an option for you. But if it is an option for you, I'd recommend it. People who want to go ahead and manifest and just, have everything here right now, sometimes they forget that it's not going to fix their life to have all these things that they think is going to help them be happier. And like, for example, a lot of people who are famous, they talk about how they thought that fame and fortune was going to solve all their problems, but it didn't. And if anything, it made it worse because they weren't prepared for it. So, keep that in mind. That's why I talk about therapy a lot in these, just in a lot of podcasts in general, just because I'm like, just remember that, having all these things that you ever dreamt about doesn't fix anything. And, if you're somebody who's really struggling, go get help. And besides that, if you want to actually build momentum from a healthy place, all you have to do is daydream. Daydream about what you want and then take a nap. That simple. Thanks for tuning in and tapping into Weekend of Heaven. I upload Mondays and Fridays at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. And if that's something that you're interested in, follow my podcast and, keep up with this, because I upload pretty much every week and I'm very consistent on it. I wouldn't say I'm like very, very consistent, but I'm consistent on the podcast, like the audio version of this, just because the visual aspect of this, like the YouTube aspect of this, I haven't been doing it that long. So for me, it's kind of like, So, I'm not gonna lie. I think I've missed one out of all of the episodes that I've done on YouTube. I think I've only missed one. So for me, it's not too bad. Like for me, like I'm just starting the YouTube, portion of this. So I call that a win. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, tapping in, and take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Because I'm not your life, I'm not your shoes. Can't tell you what to do. And I hope this was helpful in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, just because I was ranting. I don't even know what I was ranting about. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.